I used to cut pictures out of SpongeBob and put my face on wedding photos. And I used to tell people that SpongeBob and I were married.
Fantastic.
That's just a little tidbit about me. I love that.
Welcome to the Thank You Places podcast, celebrating the art of theater and the amazing people who make it happen.
Join us as we sit down to talk about our experiences, the shows we see, and what's happening on the local theater scene right here in Springfield, Missouri.
Today, we're diving into Nathaniel and Noel's current project, Urinetown the Musical.
We'll be chatting with the stage manager, Moe Callahan, as they pull back the curtain on what it takes to keep all the pieces of live theater running smoothly.
Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the show. Places!
Thank you, Places!
Welcome to the Thank You... I don't know why we always think that's so hilarious, but...
It is funny, though.
Welcome to the Thank You Places podcast. I am Nathaniel, here along with Noel and Allison, and today we're going to talk about pee.
Golden frothy pee.
I wasn't even waiting for you to take a drink.
Dang it!
But then you were.
Oh. I didn't know you were going to say that. Ooh.
I didn't know I was going to say it either until I did. So we've been talking about, referencing here and there, how Noel is costuming and I am acting in the production of Urinetown at Springfield Contemporary Theatre. Yes, the musical. So we're finally talking about it now.
Yay!
And so we have brought Moe Callahan,
Hello.
who is the stage manager for Urinetown. I already blanked on what the show was. And we're just going to talk about both what you're doing and what it's like to stage manage, this show. They were already about to spill some tea on us, so we'll get to that there. But first of all, just tell us your personal background and where you came from,
theater?
where you're going, Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah. I've been doing theater for a very, very long time because of my sister. My oldest sister is my heart. She's my everything. But we also have a really big connection in the theater world. She went to Wheaton University and was a theater major there. But she's been doing theater since she was 8 years old at our community theater in Denver. And then I decided that I wanted to do theater with her. And then my parents told me no because I had to do sports instead, of course. For some reason. I got into theater because Kickapoo High School in Springfield has a phenomenal program. As much as I do believe that theater can be a toxic environment, Kickapoo Theater does an amazing job at inviting young people to do theater because they have a program where they go to the middle schools and you're able to audition from 6th grade to freshman year in their junior musical. Aww. So I did that all 4 years and I had the best time. I did lots of productions with them. And then when I went to high school, I did the freshman year shows and the high school show, and then I switched over to Central High School where I did theater there. So I just love it.
Fantastic.
It's the best thing ever. I've been with Springfield Contemporary now for a year. I started with Sweeney Todd, directed by the Central High School director, drama teacher, Gretchen Glock-Teague, who is going to be, she does a lot of productions with Springfield Contemporary, but I love working under her, and that's what introduced me to Springfield Contemporary Theater.
Nice. I think of the people we've had on the show, I think you are like the first theater baby that we've had that like did it intensely growing up.
Oh yeah. Yep. My first production, I was an orphan in Annie. And there were about 30 other orphans.
Start.
So,
Nice.
No longer an orphan. I'm trying to make a pun work where there's not a pun to be had there. So you're stage manager for Contemporary Theater.
Yes.
Is stage managing and tech, is that kind of your area that you're into? Is there something else? You're just kind of trying it all out? What's your...
I love tech. I'm primarily a visual artist. I started... My love is art, visual art. I started as a painter with watercolor and slowly moved into the puppetry world. I love puppetry. I've loved it ever since I was little. Shout out to my Between the Lions and Sesame Street folk.
Yeah.
Because that's where it all started. But again, my puppetry and love for puppetry really blossomed again with Gretchen, who has a master's in puppetry, and she just encouraged me more and more to find the love of that. We did the COVID year was my senior year of high school, and the COVID year, I say that, and there have been 3, but we did a Planet Earth Day project where I was like, I don't want to do a musical, and we can't because it's COVID. So instead we did a puppetry parade where we made puppets, these huge puppets and costumes out of found material, which is my material of choice. And you'll find more and more that in community theater, we often use found material.
Yep.
And it's sustainable and beautiful, and I love it. And puppetry is the foundation of the entire universe in my mind.
That's great. Yeah. I love that. I have some videos to send to you that I've been watching recently about puppetry, and you will eat them up.
I love.
I'm gonna make a note.
I think Noel would love to do puppetry. It's just like gotten passionate about that lately.
It fits right in with costuming. It's hand in hand.
It really does. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How did you end up? You mentioned Gretchen. How did you end up in your role at SCT?
Our current technical director, Peyton Jackson, was a huge role in introducing me into Springfield Contemporary Theatre, because Gretchen was saying, hey, I actually took a hiatus right after high school from doing theater. I left the country for 9 months and decided that I was just going to focus on myself and my relationship with other people and where I kind of fit into the universe beyond the stuff that I personally do to it. And when I came back, I realized that theater was something that I still had a really deep love for. And that's when I was introduced to Peyton, and he is my mentor. I still always say that he is just somebody that I look up to greatly in Springfield Contemporary specifically. And he has has utilized me in ways that I really appreciate and I feel useful within the theater. He taught me how to do set design and building and just kind of the flow of the theater itself. And then I was asked to do stage managing for Hedda Gabler, which was the show that we did right before Urinetown. And I've been stage managing ever since.
Fantastic. I love that.
3 months since.
3 months ever since. Yeah.
Hedda Gabler
Since
was
February.
wild.
That's a crazy show.
It was a bonkers show.
I walked in not knowing at all what it was about, except like the little snippet on like the postcards and the media that went out. It did exceed my expectations, but I don't think my expectations matched at all the expectations that I walked out with.
So did we have
It was
expectations?
wild.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and it's a story with so much depth. I
So
don't know
many
how I
layers.
feel about Ibsen, but I think the interpretation that we had it, and our director, Jeffrey Mindock, who is another person who works at Springfield Contemporary Theatre, I think he had a really good idea about what he wanted the show to be.
Yeah.
And it became something really beautiful. Not to even mention the stunning cast that we had. Stunning visually and stunning actors.
Great cast,
just phenomenal people.
And making all that work in the found space and everything, like, that was just so...
That one pipe
Coolly
that's in the middle of that
designed.
rehearsal space that they turned into a dang chimney. Great.
Yes.
Great.
Why is it that
Yeah.
every theater studio in the world has to have a pole in the middle of the room?
Yeah.
It's like a requirement for your rehearsal space.
Just to be in the way, make it more difficult for
Make it
rehearsal and
interesting.
Give a
dancing.
challenge.
It's a permanent
Exactly.
co-star.
Yeah. I love that.
So, all right, we're going to go ahead and shift gears into Urinetown, and that means I'm going to turn it over to our resident dramaturge, Allison,
Okay.
to talk about everything Urinetown.
Yes.
What the heck is this thing about?
I'm gonna give.
What is Urinetown?
What is Urinetown? There's a
Urinetown
whole
is here.
song about it.
I'm gonna give very quick background, and then we're kind of gonna dive deeper into it next episode because we're doing 2 Urinetown episodes. So I'm just gonna give very basic background and then like a basic plot summary. So, Urinetown the Musical is a satirical comedy premiered in 2001. Music by Mark Holman, lyrics by Mark Holman and Greg Kotis, and book by Greg Kotis. Urinetown debuted, it debuted at the New York International Fringe Festival, which I think is so cool. And it was produced off-Broadway at the American Theatre for Actors from May 6th, 2001 to June 25th, 2001. The musical then opened on Broadway at Henry Miller's Theatre, running from September 20th, 2001 through January 18th, 2004, totaling 25 previews and a total of 965 performances. It was originally supposed to premiere September 13th, 2001, but was obviously and tragically delayed due to the 9/11 terrorist attacks, but it still opened 9 days after 9/11, which is crazy to think about.
Wow.
That's insane.
What?
Just a little over a week.
What a musical to debut after such an event.
What a musical!
I did
What a
read
musical
that
period.
there was a line that they had to remove from the musical because it would have been
That's
extremely
Oh, I'm
sensitive.
so curious about what
I
that
am
line
too.
was.
I can
too.
assume.
Yeah.
So many
There's
things.
so many, like, I don't know if I'd say fringe lines, but pushing it.
Spicy lines.
Spicy lines.
There was one that they had to completely remove because it, understandably.
I wonder if we can figure out what that is.
I know, yeah, maybe so.
Research project, let us know. If
Yeah.
you...
Urinetown was nominated for 10 Tony Awards and won 3. So that's just a little historical background, and now I'm going to give you some plot summary. This is directly from MTI, Music Theater International, so I'm just reading it straight from their website because I think it's the best. In a Gotham-like city, a terrible water shortage caused by a 20-year drought has led to a government-enforced ban on private toilets. The citizens must use public amenities regulated by a single malevolent company that profits by charging admission for one of humanity's most basic needs. Amid the people, a hero decides that he's had enough and plans a revolution to lead them all to freedom. Greg Kotis actually got the idea for this musical when he was a student in Europe and came across a paid toilet, which he had never come across before. You have?
The first time I saw this show was when Drury University did it a few years ago.
Yeah, you and I went to see it.
And Nathaniel and I were sitting there, and during intermission, I lean over to him and I go, okay, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. But also, I've definitely spent the majority of my life paying to use public bathrooms. I don't understand.
It's wild.
Not in America, dear.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently Greg Kotis was on a pretty tight budget. He was a student, and it struck him as odd. And so, therefore, the idea was born that it's a privilege to be.
It is a privilege to be.
Urinetown satirizes many things, but most notably the legal system, social irresponsibility, populism, bureaucracy, corporate mismanagement, and theater itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 And there's a lot of that we're going
There's
to
a lot
be
of that.
unpacking in our next episode. Excuse me. In our next episode, we'll get into some of the literary background of that and Malthus and all of that good stuff.
Oh, love Malthus. It's my favorite joke of the show.
Homeboy Malthus.
I honestly had no idea who that was until Nathaniel was looking it up, and I was like, oh, the line makes sense.
I didn't look it up. I just repeated what Rick told me.
Oh. That's valid.
Did you have anything you wanted to add to that plot of that, or?
Truly, this is a show about how not only it is the satire.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
yeah.
the satire. It's based on just how funky the government is and businesses can be, corporations can be, communities also. Ooh, the jokes about the different people in public places and just how bonkers crazy everyone is all the time in public. If you've ever been on a public bus, every single character on that bus is in this show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are just a ton of spoofs on different musicals, everything. Every song is a spoof on a different musical, a lot of different jokes. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that our directors have added in as well. References
I
and whatnot
remember
to other musicals.
Talking about, like, the coming to being of the show. I remember in our like beginning production meetings when Rick, the director, was showing us his inspiration and giving us his vision and things, he was talking a lot about how it was a festival show to begin with, and so when it did come to Broadway, they kept all of that low budget, like slapstick kind of stuff going on, because that is what the show is meant to be. It's meant to be this thing, and I like that we have also kept that in our production of it.
Yeah.
I do think that at its core, again, found theater is such a beautiful thing. I think that it's something that we don't utilize enough, because we've kind of had this era of high tech is the better way to go.
Yeah.
And
so snappy and...
yeah, and I really think that going back to the basics and trying to figure out the stupidest way to get something done is amazing. And that is actually during COVID was something that we focused on a lot, was what is the dumbest, like most basic, least technical way that we could get this task done, and everything becomes so much more fun and silly and lively. It's beautiful, and
I love that.
I love this show.
I love how part of the art of theater can be all of the crazy high-tech art and like the professional level production, or it can be creating something out of sticks and stones. Like that, both of those are an equal like form of theater. It's not even that it's like low budget or high budget, like that's just how you make it look.
It's kind of like what's the least amount we can do and still get the idea across.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which, I mean, simplicity is the key. That's what happens with a lot of art mediums and things. Like, the more simplified you can make something, the more in its raw state that you can, the better it will come across. Like, your message will come across easier. And things.
Especially in a show like this, part of the gag is like it breaks the fourth wall a bunch of times. Things are meant to be exposed. And so it both like brings the audience in as part of the comedy, because like you're not supposed to reference the audience, but then you do, and it's part of the comedy, but at the same time kind of pulls them in, I think, into the themes and ideas of the show as well. It takes a lot of skill to write something stupid. That's the art of comedy writing.
It really does.
Like, you have to be skillful to write and to deliver this kind of dumb comedy and like break the audience's defenses down to then bring them in and say, actually, your way of life is unsustainable. You're the bunny. Oh, I meant to put a bunny out for the decor.
I can go grab one.
Don't be the bunny. No, it's okay. This is the...
I'm not hosting the show. I was excited to say the next question.
Yeah, so this is the second time that Contemporary has done this show, and we've heard about it a good bit, like 16 years ago.
Rick keeps looking at me and going, so when we did the show last time, you remember da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm like, Rick, hon, I was like 9 years old. I was living in Belarus. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was thousands of miles away. But do you feel, or how much do you feel, I guess, that original show has had an influence on this? Has it had any sort of presence?
I really think that it does, especially with all the technical elements. We keep going back to our storage space and pulling out stuff from the old show. We don't have to buy any new stuff, or barely any new things, including our little Sally, who is...
We didn't have to change actresses.
She is the little Sally that we used 16 years ago, and she does a phenomenal job now, and I'm sure she did a phenomenal job then. We still use the same pregnancy bellies, the same foot walker, whatever, broken ankle, what is that called?
A leg brace.
Leg brace. I did the prop list. I should know what's on it.
It's fine.
But there's a lot of gags that we're carrying on just because they are so timeless. I am excited about the elements that we're choosing to change, like Bobby's fall.
Ooh, I was gonna ask about that.
Because the last time, I won't give away what we're doing this time, because you have to come and see the show. But last time, they had a very tiny Bobby on a stick. and they pushed real Bobby off the stage or whatever, and then had a spotlight with itty bitty tiny Bobby on a stick going.
Wow.
I love that.
I know. I'm kind of sad that we're bringing it back.
No, I think I like our method better, but I love that.
Our method right now is a little more artistic.
Oh yeah.
Interpretive.
Yeah, it's a little fancier.
A little
But
less
I don't
silly.
know. A little person on a stick sounds hysterical.
That's honestly really funny, yeah.
Oh, goodness. And I guess that answers what the design team has held on to originally as well. I mean, I know you wouldn't have been there 16 years ago to see exactly, but...
I do think that a lot of the technical elements that we're carrying on from the previous show are changed a little bit just because of the different actors. The person playing McQueen is Joshua. I don't remember his last name off the top of my head, but...
Joshua David Smith.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Right,
It's
JDS.
actually known
Oh,
as
yes.
JDS, yeah.
I forget that he is Springfield's theater fame because of his work on SpongeBob the Musical.
Yes.
And as
Which
Squidward.
he told me the other day that he's never seen an episode of SpongeBob.
That is
But
crazy.
he played Squidward.
That's a
Played
crime.
Squidward so
a
well.
great Squidward.
I used to cut pictures out of SpongeBob and put my face on wedding photos, and I used to tell people that SpongeBob and I were married.
Fantastic.
That's just a little tidbit about me. I love
so
that. But he is doing a phenomenal job. One of the bits that we've carried on from the previous show is having bunny puppets during the number Don't Be the Bunny. And he just brings his own flair. It's amazing. One of the jokes about McQueen is that he is a flamboyant homosexual. And he just brings that to the table in a way that takes a lot of courage, I believe. It's a lot of flair. And with those puppets, he's so funny. He's hilarious. So definitely
Amazing.
appreciate that.
I love that. Yeah.
I love that that's a thing too, because the actual homosexual character in the show is Beryl. They picked the married straight man to play him.
The flaming straight.
Flaming straight.
Nathaniel goes,
That was my
I don't
favorite
know how to
conversation.
play him. Everyone else is playing so gay. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I was also told that I couldn't play like a stereotypical flaming homosexual because
Yeah.
only JDS's character, only McQueen, was going to be able to do that.
Which is so
And so
difficult
I
because
was
I do
like,
think you're the only straight one in the
okay,
cast.
right, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do? I was like, okay, all right. You're straight, so just lean into the extreme of your straightness and play a total F-boy. Just
Yes.
like
Time.
as much as you can. So that's the best I could do on short
Extremely
notice.
effective. It works. It's a part of the closeted cop stereotype,
Yeah.
and I love it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is preview for.
Next.
Or I've given away all my acting points.
Oh no.
I just got on talking. So back to you and stage managing.
Yes.
First of all, can you, for those who may not know, explain just in general the role of a stage manager and how that works in more words than miracle worker, because that's basically.
Of course.
Yeah.
I do believe that the role of stage manager means that you are assistant to everybody in the cast and crew. I love looking at it as a role for just there to help and be there for people when they need you to be there. I think that's extremely important. It's keeping everybody organized. I do the prop list and communicate from the director to the prop manager. I do the schedule, communicating from the production team to the cast. It's all about communication and keeping everybody straight, and it's wonderful. I find myself loving this job more than I've loved other elements of tech, just because I am there for everybody. And I value the cast and crew so highly, and for me to be able to humble myself and just be there to serve them, I think that's the best
And you
role.
do a great job.
Thank you. I love it, and I feed off of everybody's energy. I love meeting all the different people. I've worked with some of the Urinetown cast previously, but I've met so many of the new people and just everyone coming in and telling me about how they've gotten to theater. I truly feel that's not necessarily every stage manager's job to learn about the cast and crew, but I think it's important to the show, especially when you have a cast that needs additional help or if somebody's struggling something, it's important to look at that and see that because the directors aren't necessarily going to see all the struggle. And so you need to be there to say, I'm the one that's going to be in your corner for this because the director's focusing on getting the show pretty.
Yeah.
Which is, again, an important job, and that's the director's job. Yeah. But somebody needs to also be behind the scenes making sure that everybody's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's a great way to put that.
Yeah. I like that you're prioritizing that relationship with the cast and all as well, because it's like your stage manager has to be someone that you can rely on a moment's notice to like whatever's going on in the course of things, and so it's just that extra level of trust that's developed over the rehearsal process.
And there is a technical element to it, like I have to be able to actually do my job, like I have to be able to keep charts and sheets and write notes and things like that. Faxing and copying.
Faxing and copying.
Faxing and copying.
And copying.
Allison is like,
she will learn. She will learn. But it's also important to have those emotional elements, so.
Yeah. I love that.
I guess you'll be backstage calling the show as well during, or however that.
Oh yes.
However that goes.
Yep, I'm the one who says places, so.
Fantastic.
We should let you say places.
It's a little weird to put you on the other side.
I know. I've never had to say thank you 10 before. It's crazy.
So what has been, again, both the general stage manager process, but also your process in when you go to manage a show thing? What's kind of the process you developed and what's so with the show?
I understand that the primary job of the stage manager is communication. That is something that I practice every day in my life, every day on stage, within this job and my other jobs. And I like to set up a bunch of different sheets for each of the categories. So I have one for costume design, I have one for choreography, one for props, all the different things, makeup, hair, all those things. And I am constantly typing notes into those saying, this is what we need. What do you need help with? What do you not understand? So that we can get it straight. So when we are ready to combine the production team and the cast, it all runs extremely smooth. I take notes like a crazy. Yeah, I'm not gonna curse on your podcast. Started that sentence before I finished it. But
you do. I've seen the notes. It's
great. Yeah, I keep my laptop open with my production notes. I keep my handwritten things so that I have notes for myself, and if I need to personally pass something on face-to-face, I keep those in my notebook. Wow. And then I have, my my script that I'm constantly taking notes. Wow. Another job of the stage manager is to make sure that the cast knows their lines. Which, actually, this cast is doing an amazing job at knowing their lines.
Sometimes I remember that we've only been in rehearsal for, what, 4 weeks?
4 weeks.
Now, and we were off book this past week.
Oh, my goodness. You guys are so talented. Right. This is the fastest I've ever seen a cast go from the rehearsal space to the stage with such ease in such a long time.
They're doing very well.
Wow. And again, I have 5 lines, but all these leads with monologues and stuff that are getting 80, 90, 95% of it off right out of off book is wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I also just came from the last show I was involved with, was a great time in White Christmas. Wonderful. Would 10 of 10 do it again, but it was a much younger and less experienced group. Oh. So things were not picked up as fast. So the complete whiplash to a very professional group. I'm like, whoa.
I saw that show several times, and every time it was slightly different, which I mean is valid for live theater. But it was, I don't know
if I would say the right kind of difference.
I know this monologue, and you have not said this monologue correctly any of the times that you have done it, but it's fine. Because, the last show I started I also gave a monologue a different way every time I did it, so...
It's just a younger cast.
Yeah. There is a downside to how professional the actors feel like they need to be, though. Because, again, seeing the emotional side of the cast, they kick themselves so much when they get it wrong. And kind of just have to sit down with them and be like, hey, the stuff that you know, and you got the gist of it. Just work on this place. Like, that's another job is I will highlight monologues and different parts that the actors continually miss. And I'll pull them inside, be like, hey, I just want you to look over these lines a little bit more. And it's not at all a diminutive thing. It's just, this is the way to make it more effective and practice your craft, which can be difficult for these actors because we work long hours and it's a volunteer gig. So all of these people have other jobs that they have to do. So everyone is just working 24/7 and it's extremely tiring. So the way that I feel like bringing up the fact that they are so professional, even when they miss lines, gotta lift them up even when they're doing that because they kick themselves so much.
I know they do.
You guys are doing a great job. So
yeah, and it all comes together in the end.
It does.
Everything. Never been in a place where it didn't come together.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you have any creative power over the show besides, you're kind of just like assisting to everyone, but like how much say do you have in kind of that like initial vision casting?
One of my things that I had to learn very quickly was, especially working previously as director and assistant director on other shows, I had to learn really quickly that I shouldn't just keep my mouth shut when the director is doing their thing, which again, with Peyton as my mentor, he was always very kind about being like, hey, that was direction. We don't give direction. I'm like, yes, you're absolutely correct. I see what I did there. And I don't have that much creative say at all. Unless I have ideas and I'm like, I think this would be more effective because it's just not reading. Because again, I'm not constantly thinking about this. And when you think about something so much, you find loopholes and you kind of, your train of thought gets dragged so far that when you actually put it on its feet, it doesn't always read. So I do have the ability to say, that doesn't work.
That's cool.
You're just like a second pair of eyes.
Yeah, you have a different perspective than everybody else.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The executor more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah. So I do see that side of the creative process, but my job is not to be a creative in this space. It is to be a supporter and a servant. So that's what I do.
So cool.
Are there any like changes to your approach through the process, like what your priorities are pre-production versus when the cast? I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I didn't even look at the script while the cast was learning choreography or getting it on its feet at all because they have the script in hand, so I don't need to be looking at it. What I'm doing in that stage is making sure that I have all the props down, and whenever the director adds something that needs a technical element, I'm making sure that I'm writing that down, all of the kinks we're finding. So there is a scene where we're having a little bit of trouble with, lights. We need to figure out a strategy for how we're going to get from this spot to this spot. I'm writing all of those things down, making sure everybody knows their transitions, the stuff like that. And then once we get onto the book, my priority is making sure that the actors know what they're doing, making sure that at this point, all the production team basically knows what they're doing. They're on stand, so I can kind of leave them alone unless they are having trouble knowing what they're doing.
We're doing our best.
Yeah. And the production team is doing a phenomenal job. And I think a lot of that is due to phenomenal communication. Because we have production meetings every few weeks, and now we have them every week, now that the show is starting to roll. And I think our directors do a really good job of making sure that we talk through all the stuff we need to talk through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very detail-oriented, like...
It's been very nice. It's been the most, detail-oriented show I've been a part of.
Wow.
Where I feel like I have all the elements to be able to do my job well.
And then we get to check up on each other, and especially with you're working so close with Kaya, who is our costume and hair, and making sure that all those things align. I think it's great that we have opportunities for you guys to come together and actually talk.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
What's been the hardest thing about this process so far? A moment, a task, anything?
This show specifically can get really annoying really quickly. Not to say there are a lot of jokes and things like that, but with the constant practice, we kind of lose sight of the funniness of the show. It's also just, again, we're all really tired, and this is an extremely intensive physical show.
Yeah.
So we just get really tired by the end of the night.
And like
so-
the themes are kind of dark, honestly, and
It
it's not an uplifting show at all.
Requires a
so
lot of
it's-
your energy.
Like
Yeah.
not to spoil anything, but there's a body count at the end.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a comedy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
They die in humorous ways.
yeah.
They still did.
That's true. Yeah, so I do think that it gets tiring, and we all try our best to make creation our outlet, but it's still sometimes, on every production.
Yeah.
With all of the companies that I've worked on and worked with, Springfield Contemporary has been the healthiest, non-toxic place I've ever worked. Everyone is so kind. I think that is the most important thing. They're kind and patient and affirming with each other, which I think is really important. Yeah. Especially
I second that.
Yeah, especially with Hedda. Hedda was one of the shows that I, while working on it, was constantly like, this cast is so smart and kind and wants to be in community with each other more than they want to please an audience, which
That's
is what theater should be.
Yeah.
And
because
that
it's gonna
came
be better.
across
Good.
really well.
Yeah,
Like,
you can always tell.
yeah,
when a
when
cast
the
is
cast vibes and are together, yeah.
Yeah. Which you always have like clashing heads, but honestly, I think Rick does. I guess the connecting thing is that Rick is in the room, is that he's making sure that everybody's just focused and we're here for a reason.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that got me into theater was that sense of community, and just like the friends that I made in theater. We had very special relationships. Really special. If you can't. It's an interesting sound. If you can't see on the camera, Noel just flashed a ring to the camera. That was like, but yeah, like very very close relationships, whether that's from just mutual love of the art or trauma bonding or trauma bonding over something you love to be traumatized by.
Oh yeah.
Something like that. I think I literally said that after a break at a rehearsal recently. I looked at I think Heath, maybe so, I don't know. I looked at someone and I was like, all right, I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what makes it so special is that community sense. And I think even watching like on social media at the professional level and stuff, like the sense of community that actors and crew and all have is just so unique and strong. And it's really it's a safe place for people to be themselves and to meet people and everything. And that's really what drew me into theater so much early on there. So, to lighten it, what has been one of your favorite moments so far? And I'm leaving that broad because that can be a happy moment, a humorous moment in rehearsal, whatever on earth it could be.
I find the greatest joy in watching the actors when they really, when the energy moves through all of the actors and you can physically feel it coming off the stage.
Yes.
I think that is the most beautiful thing, just watching you guys work, and I get to experience that, and I get to experience it from the ground up, and I think that's I do think that is one of the greatest blessings that I just sitting watching you guys. It's my favorite thing in the world, and I don't have to stress about knowing all the steps or knowing the words. I can just sit there and be a part of something that's so beautiful, and I don't have to I mean, I do things for it, but it doesn't have to be earned. It's
I
just
understand
given.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel the same way. That's one of the reasons why I do tech and not on stage, because it's so wonderful just to be part of something so much bigger than yourself and tell stories and things.
Yeah.
But also not have to be the person like, dancing for 4 hours a night.
Yeah, it's just it's something that it's a communal giving. So I'm gonna give you my time and my patience and my love so that you are able to perform the best you can. In return, you're just going to give me that energy that you also love to give, and it's sending that back and forth.
Everyone
is so
wants
good.
to be there.
Everyone
Like-
wants to be there most nights.
Most nights, everyone wants to be in the show.
Yes, around 9:30, I hit a wall that I called Goblin Mode.
That was the part where I told him you should get. And you connected with Noel. She also has a goblin mode at 9:30.
My eyes
yeah.
started twitching at the
Yeah, I usually have a sweatshirt on, so I just kind of huddle up into my sweatshirt and like give everyone a scowl because I finished my Dr. Pepper and I just want to go home.
It's a move. Why do you think I go home about 9 o'clock?
Which is about when I'm like, "Hey, Mo, how you doing?"
Exactly.
I love that. I appreciate you and Rick and Alex and Logan and all of them laughing at all of the jokes in the show.
I
without
love to
fail,
hear Rick's laugh.
every time. Like
I can't help it.
It hasn't gotten old yet, and that's so good.
Yeah, I
Because it helps me
cackle.
know where the
I
comedy
cackle
still
every
is.
time. I cannot help it. I'm sure our directors, Rick and Logan, are annoyed with me, but
Rick's laughing just as much. Like,
Oh, it's so funny. It's such a funny show. You guys do such a good job. I love the way that you play around with jokes so that it's fresh and new every time. You know the best way to deliver the line and stuff. Oh, it's so juicy. I love it. So juicy.
I think my favorite is Alex, the music director. He doesn't necessarily laugh, but he makes faces.
Oh, he
And
also
just
goes.
every time there's like a twist in the show, like the first time the big twist, which I won't say because you have to come see the show, but the first time the big twist in the show came up, he's just at the piano and he just goes, and he held it for like 2 minutes.
He
Makes
also
the greatest
does
faces.
He does do a beautiful laugh. I'm gonna like back away from the microphone, but he goes,
Yes.
which is really funny.
Yeah.
It's true. I hear that from back in the costume, like, warehouse stuff. I just hear,
Yep.
yeah. Now, Allie, your turn.
I didn't even see what's going on over there yet. I
Allie
had
has a tiny hand.
I have 4 tiny hands.
no idea what was going on over there.
Yeah.
How did that become part of this?
We needed something for our hands.
Yeah.
We needed tiny
Fidgety.
hands for our hands.
Fidgety people.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
my
gosh, there's one of the flashlights
emotional
the cops
support.
have that has like a little ring on the end that flips up and down, and I always pick that one. And I told
Yeah.
Heath, I'm like, I can just sit here and fiddle with this, and it's so nice.
My
It's so nice.
emotional support hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Well,
Wow. Anyways.
anywho, so if you know, what's coming next for you after this show? Do you have another project lined up? Something?
I do. I was just asked to be stage manager for Big Fish
Yeah,
at
you
Springfield
were.
Contemporary Theatre. So
And I was just asked to be the costumer for Big Fish.
we're working together again.
And I was just asked to be the fish.
the Big Fish.
The big fish. Not the big fish, the medium-sized fish, the sidekick.
Yeah, so I'll be working on that with, again, Gretchen Teague will be directing it because she just directed it at Central High School. And our very own Jackson was in that show, and he's in Urinetown as Billy Boy Bill. But, yep, I'm
Those
excited to be working
ensemble
on that.
names are.
What's your favorite ensemble name?
Oh yeah.
Hot Plates.
Hot Plates
Hot Plates
Harry?
Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like Soupy Sue.
My sister played Soupy Sue when she was in Urinetown. Actually,
Fantastic.
when Gretchen did it at Central.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
We
What's your-
also have added Hildigo Jane.
Yes.
That's an added character. I like her name too.
Yes, Hilda Jane.
What's your favorite? We're going to ask several people this later. What's your out of context line? Go.
I have to think of one.
This is something we'll be doing videos for later on.
Oh, it's going to take me a minute to think.
Oh, I stumped him. Okay, mine is once this once is once too much because once they want to once more.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite line
Wow.
of the show.
Yeah.
I don't know my script well enough. I didn't even know that was a
Oh,
line.
no, my favorite is I was a good girl too before I met your dad. A good girl? You heard me.
You heard me.
Yeah.
Spoken by a man.
Yes.
Just to
A
make-
senator.
yeah.
The senator.
That was
Governor
Phip's
Cook.
line.
You heard
Yeah.
me.
I will have to get back to you on mine.
That's
I'll have
okay.
to, like, review
We'll come
my
back to it
script.
on next episode, or just one that you hear in
Yeah.
rehearsal. There's a lot of nonsense, and
So
you're gonna
much
have
nonsense.
to come view it to see all of the nonsense.
Oh, it's the "and I love you very much." That's not really funny out of context, but if you see where it's staged,
Yeah.
makes me
Yeah.
giggle.
And I think knowing that line was given out of context just creates an anticipatory sort of.
Yeah.
Well, anywho, thank you for coming and talking with us.
Thank
This
you
was a
for
great
having
time.
me. It was so good to hang out with you
Thank you
guys.
for your excitement about our podcast and activities.
I think it's beautiful.
My
I love
favorite
it.
reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So-
love anything that highlights local theater. Love it.
It's
Yep.
a great time.
That's what we're here for.
Yep,
So,
and this has to be the
you're. So Urinetown opens June 16th, which will be when this is posted, the end of the week. So if you're just out here in this June 16th through July 2nd,
Panic.
panic, right? I have the rehearsal calendar. I intentionally did this to myself. I don't know why. I put the rehearsal calendar on the fridge and I cross out each rehearsal after
So
it goes.
it's like
And then I have like a
D-Day.
big line right where opening night is. And so it's just like, it's just shrunk. I don't know
all
why
my
I did that to
costumes there that I have
myself.
to alter and adjust different things on that I have not touched yet this weekend. But it's fine. I'm doing it tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
all good. We have 2 weeks.
It's
fine.
happening. Yeah, we have 2
good.
weeks.
Just 2 weeks. So June 16th through July 2nd. If you're in the area, tickets are at springfieldcontemporarytheatre.org. And then also coming up, it'll be mid-run by the time this releases, Beauty and the Beast. By the time you hear this, there'll be 2 weekends left of that at Springfield Little Theater. Looking forward to seeing that as well. We talked with Bailey last time, and she's working on the costumes for that.
They look
that
beautiful.
runs through June 25th, and tickets are at springfieldlittletheater.org. Again, like a one-word difference. You'll get to something. Yeah. So, and then next week next episode, 2 weeks, we'll be here talking about Noel's costuming and acting stuff and just taking more of a deep dive on the themes and stuff of Urinetown.
It'll be a great time.
And keep an eye out as well on our socials and YouTube and all. We're going to get backstage and do some fun shorts and history videos and all. I'm really excited about some of the stuff we've got
I'm
lined
gonna
up
come
this summer.
invade your space.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to throw Allie
Absolutely.
backstage with the camera and say, here you go. So I hope you guys will stick around for that, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Thank You Places podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast and share it with your friends.
For more information and to stay up to date, check out Thank You Places on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at Thank You Places Troupe. That's TROUPE.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.